Welcome to the Been There Doing That podcast. I'm Robert Scrivener.
And I'm Gayla Scrivener.
We left the 9-to-5 grind, downsized, and our goal is to have freedom to live and to work from just about anywhere.
We're glad you joined us
Yes,
for
we are.
another episode of the Been There Doing That podcast. And today we're going to talk about Robert leaving me.
I up and did it, didn't I?
Yes,
Left.
left.
You.
No, a few weeks ago you had planned a camping trip, a camping weekend with a buddy of yours.
3 days, 2 nights.
Yeah, I have been counting on that for months, I think. Just
At least a month.
At least a month. Well, because quite some time ago you were going to go camping with this buddy and that got canceled and we did something else and we had car trouble and
That was last year.
So this year I wanted just a few days of alone time.
You wanted me time.
Yep.
Or you time.
Yes. Me time without you. But there
Yes.
was nothing personal about that.
Right.
Nothing personal. I just didn't want to see
You
any
just wanted
other human
alone
being.
time.
Exactly. To do things just for me. And there's nothing
Do whatever
wrong
you
with
wanted to
it.
do, whenever you wanted to do it, however you wanted to do it.
Yes.
Without me.
Yes.
Okay. Now that we got that clear.
Well, then you had planned that camping trip and that did not go as planned. So that was, in essence, canceled. But instead,
Had a backup plan.
But instead, you had seen an event that you wanted to go to. So you and your buddy went to this event. Tell us about that, what you did.
The event was the 31st annual Pomme de Terre Mountain Man Rendezvous up in Hermitage, Missouri. And it was rescheduled for October because it got flooded in May.
Ooh. Now, all of this Mountain Man Rendezvous stuff is totally new to me. Just within the last year, I think that you've introduced me to all of this. But you have been getting into leather work in the past year.
Lots of it.
Lots of it. And it had started out with a little handbag that you did.
Yep.
And make me some beautiful handbags. And then it's kind of evolved and you had decided to make some pants.
Yeah, leather pants.
They're buffalo pants?
They are made out of bison hide.
Well,
Look like buckskin, but it's a little thicker.
well, you'd
Last my lifetime.
I'm sure it will.
It won't wear out.
And honestly, at first it's like, okay, what are you doing? You're making pants and moccasins. You started out with moccasins.
Start from the ground up.
And then you said, well, there's this rendezvous that my buddy and I are going to go to. And so I stayed home and so I could have my alone time.
Mm-hmm.
And you and your buddy went ahead and went to Pomme de Terre, which I'll have to admit I was a little jealous because I had never experienced
You
this
shoulda
type of
went.
thing. So tell me about what a rendezvous is, what a mountain man rendezvous is, and why is it kind of cool?
Well, it is the 1800s, roughly, to 1840 fur trade era, where the beaver pelt was made to wear for the beaver hat. Beaver hats were in style. Felt hats were in style.
So felt hats are beaver skin?
Yes.
Well, how is that possible? Because beaver has really long hair.
They shave it down and get it all nice and smooth and
Even and
Yep.
And I guess they have thick skin.
Beaver's
so
waterproof, so that's why the felt hat was waterproof.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
very nice. And the Europeans really that was the big fashion.
That was a big fashion back in the day. So that's the fur trade era. And then the rendezvous came about, I think 1823 was the first one. 1820, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
gathering of people to bring their pelts for their hides of beaver to sell
And trade.
and trade for other things they might need for the next year.
Kind of have a party.
Yeah, a big celebration.
A whole bunch of tents and trading.
Yeah, to make gather up their money to go back and do it again for the following year. And that was a gathering, was a rendezvous.
I find it interesting because since you've introduced me to this, and I have to say, you do surprise me. We've known each other, 12 years?
Yeah,
And
not long enough.
Not long enough. We still have many years to go. But I had no idea that you were interested in leather work when, for many years in this
Didn't ask.
I didn't ask. That's a whole nother story. But you started in doing the leather work, and you've surprised me with how artistic. You haven't surprised me. I'm just impressed every day of how much more artistic, is being drawn out of you, because you've got it in you.
Because it ain't never came out.
It just hasn't came out yet. But going back to the rendezvous, I guess I learned by osmosis, because you've been watching a lot of YouTube and PBS specials and
documentaries.
Things like that. And from what I understand, there were some big trading companies for fur trading.
Mm-hmm. Ashley, I believe, was one of them, the major one. Hudson Bay was another one. And
is Hudson Bay the one that's still around?
Yes, they've been, I think, in business since the 1600s.
That's just crazy.
And still in business. They make wool blankets and some other things. But they're known for the wool blankets.
And they had companies that would employ different people to be the mountain men, but they had different roles. And I, since I watched Jeremiah Johnson, that
Robert
Redford movie, I thought that all mountain men were loners, but there were different types of mountain men. There were the independent contractors.
Yep. The ones that worked for the company, and then the ones that were owned by the company.
And the ones that would not be owned by anybody, they were the independents.
The free trappers.
And they would go
do their thing, sell their stuff to whoever they wanted to, and not be owned by anybody.
So that was Jeremiah Johnson, wasn't it? And it was rare that they were in by themselves. They went out in teams a lot.
Yeah, a brigade.
Okay, that's what they're called.
Trapping brigade or whatever. Several people.
Mm-hmm. So at the rendezvous, modern day rendezvous, what happens there? What's the look and feel, and what's it like?
Well, the last one I was at was 1987.
You were a kid.
Oh, it's 30 years ago.
You were a kid.
That was at Bagnell Dam in Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri, and it's tame. They had their pelts for sale and beads and leather work and stuff like that, and shooting matches between the black powder and another person that'd say, I can shoot better than you, and then they'd have a shoot off, and who got the closest wins, and tomahawk throwing, knife throwing, and it's pretty much the same today, just 30 years later.
Looking at your pictures, there's big white tents.
Big white canvas tents.
And that's where people, will they camp there?
Yes. To be in the camping area, you must be dressed in period costume, meaning anything 1940 or earlier.
1940.
1840. 1840 or on back in costume, and no vehicles allowed. And everything that you do must be pertaining to 1840 or prior.
And so you can camp, is it like a 2 or 3 day event?
Usually, most of them will start on a Wednesday evening or Thursday and set up camp and stuff. And then Friday, they might have a school out to demonstrate to the school, local school of living history. And then Saturday is open to public, Sunday's open to public, and then Monday's gone.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And you ended up dressing pretty much period.
Yeah, for what I had.
You threw on your moccasins and your brand new,
sparkling, shiny, well, not shiny, my bison hide pants that I had made.
Well, there and that was quite the project.
It was. It took about a week.
And I had helped a little bit and got a little frustrated because it was hard to fit onto you.
Yeah.
And I had no idea where you were going and what.
I had never made pants before.
Yeah.
But that's what the mountain men did. When their original pants wore out, they used the old ones for a pattern to make them out of buckskin.
And they tan their own
hide with the brain tan or however they wanted to use for tanning. But normally it's brain tan. Use the brains of the animal to tan your hide, and became very soft.
And since we had never done this, and what you were trying to accomplish kind of went against what I had.
Everything against your sewing classes.
Everything that I had learned in sewing and what my mother had taught me on how to sew certain things was kind of going against my grain. But that's okay.
Line everything up.
Yes.
No, they didn't line everything up back then. They worked with what they had.
And you wore what you had, a flannel shirt. And
yeah, at the time. I bought a shirt while I was there from a lady from Iowa. It's a work shirt. Not that I'll work in it, but it looks good on me.
And, well, it does.
It does.
And then you said, I got to make myself a belt.
Yep, I bought me a buckle while I was there, a period-looking buckle, and so I made me a belt.
And I have to say,
I look good.
You look good. And I think I figured out that you're in the wrong century.
Mm-hmm.
And that all the overlanding trips that we do is the modern day mountain. It's the gateway of you wanting to be this mountain man and just disappear in the woods.
Yeah, finally figured me out.
I figured you out.
Took you long enough.
And I guess I'm the, you want to take me along.
You're welcome. You're welcome to come along as my full-time night woman.
All right. Mm. And at the rendezvous, did you say that there was another section that had like other arts and crafts?
There was. It was totally, I guess, segregated from this place, the encampment of the mountain men, because they weren't dressed in period costume. Their camps were not period. They was using modern day technology, so they could not be in the camp.
So their booths had electricity.
Their booths had electricity, and they had everything else.
What did they?
And that night, the morning we got there, the night before, got down in the low 20s. So it was brisk that night camping out.
Well, I'll ask
Not that we camped out.
No, but you were talking to folks. What, with the arts and crafts section, what kind of arts and crafts did they have? Just anything? Or was it trying to be like from the 1800s?
They had basket weaving. They had paintings. Lady would do paintings of you. Kettle corn, wood cutout stuff, scroll wood cutout stuff. Just, knickknacks, crafts, quilts, and stuff like that.
So pretty much the arts and crafts that you'd see, like if we'd go to Bella Vista or anything like that.
Just not as much of them.
Just a big array.
Smaller quantity up there where we were.
And then when you walk down to the rendezvous part, the more period part, that was consists of hardcore folks that
the main event.
That not only their tents, but they had some blankets. If you wanted to trade something, you could just
throw out a trade blanket, what they call it, and set up your wares on there, and it'd be either a $10 fee or free usually.
Mm-hmm.
But to camp, it's I think $25.
And so those kinds of arts and crafts
were
more
3 days though.
Yeah.
Which is cheap.
Which is cheap. Those arts and crafts were trying to be more true to the period. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so there were hides and the belt buckle that you had gotten looks to me to be old.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they had deer antlers.
They had deer antler buttons, powder horns, flintlock muskets. You had your percussion cap and ball, tomahawks, knives, skunk faces. They had coyote pelts, foxes, bear claws, bison teeth. They had everything that you'd ever want at a rendezvous.
Those tents, they weren't teepees, were they?
Some were.
Did they have fire inside of them?
Some of them did.
Really?
Some of them had little cast iron stoves.
Really?
Yep. See, if you'd have went, you would have known this.
I know.
You're going to have to go to another one.
I know. Isn't there one coming up in January or February?
There's one every weekend somewhere in the United States.
Well,
every weekend.
Well, I'm getting enthused because it sounds fun.
They had beading stuff there.
Beading, not beating.
Not beating with a T, but beading with a D.
Well, that's another thing that you have been encouraging me to do. As you're doing this leather crafting or leather work, then
I'm trying to push you into doing some of the Native American beading.
Yes. Those little tiny seed beads. Oh, my goodness.
Yes. But they look so good when they're totally done.
They do. And I guess last night was the first time that I had actually tried my hands of doing any beading work, and it turned out pretty well.
You did excellent.
And I don't know. My mom said, well, Gayla, you got some Cherokee Indian in you. You've got it in your blood. You can do this.
Yes. And you did.
I did. I
need to do it more often.
I will learn. We will have some really cool designs, I'm sure. Anything else that happened at the rendezvous? Did you meet anybody that was really cool? Or
met everybody was cool. Everybody, one guy says, "Hey, your pants are too new. You need to roll around and get some deer blood on them and skin a deer or something." I said, "Yeah, they're fresh. I just made them this last week." So, there's a guy named Mo I met, and he was up from Hillsboro, Missouri. He's probably later 70s, and he had a service dog with him named Boomer.
Aw.
Boomer's camp is what you look for. Yes, very pleasurable to talk to. Learned a lot of things from him, and hopefully I run into him again.
Do these vendors travel around to all these rendezvous?
Yes, they. I guess January starts out in Althea River down in Florida.
Oh, we've been there.
One of those bigger ones that starts out somewhere around 500 to 1,000 camps down there. And then it just kind of migrates up the northeast and to the central. And then for the people on the west side, I don't know where it starts at, but they start in the southern in January and work their way back to wherever they want to.
So these vendors may have websites, and they do this full-time or part-time?
The lady I bought my shirt from, she lives in Iowa, but she does it, I think, 38 weeks a year.
Wow.
Which, gives her, 18 weeks off or 20 weeks off.
Mm-hmm.
And she does it full-time. Starts out, she's the one that told me about Florida, and then works her way up the East Coast.
Well, that is neat. So, has that gotten you more enthused in doing more mountain man stuff?
Yes. Yes.
So will our overlanding start to trend of, well, there's a rendezvous up here, so let's go.
Let's check it out.
Yeah.
Why not? Pinedale, Wyoming is the big one. I think it's called the Jim Bridger Rendezvous or Bridger Rendezvous. But it's also the home of the Mountain Man Museum.
Oh, how neat.
So that's actually close to where the last rendezvous was held in 1840. So that's why it's there.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you you were at a gun show just a few days after the rendezvous, weren't you?
No.
Oh.
Before.
Was it before?
Yes.
And you bought the black powder rifle before the rendezvous?
Yep.
Oh.
Because I went shooting it later that day.
Okay.
See, if you'd stay with me on these things, you would know where I'm at.
I needed my me time.
You needed your me time, and you didn't want to go.
But it sounds like you had a good time, and you did shoot your gun for the first time.
Yeah.
And how'd that go for you?
Well, it went pretty good.
What kind of gun do you have first?
It is a .45 caliber black powder cap and ball, or percussion, some might say.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't take a lot to get started in black powder, but it was everything invested under $200.
Yeah.
That included the powder and the lead balls and everything, including the gun.
Wow.
So yes.
And you shot it for the first time with your dad, I guess.
Yeah, went out to his place and shot it there. First, I think 6 times and misfired. Figured out hadn't been shot in a while, and we cleared out the vent vent where the cap fires and sends powder over into the breech there, and the powder explodes and pushes the ball out the barrel. It was clogged up in there. So we did a little surgery and got it fixed.
So is there a danger of like backfiring with that, or
well, I'm sure there is with any gun.
Well, I guess so. But when you would pull the trigger and nothing happened,
You hang fire.
Yeah.
That's
what do you
scary.
do?
You wait a little bit. You wait at least several minutes. Keep it pointed in a safe direction, because it could ignite and go.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have been doing even more leather work, and you're starting to get requests for stuff.
Yeah.
You've been doing some wonderful purses.
Handbags, purses,
and
possible bags, whatever you want to call them.
Well, they're simple. Well, I won't say simple, but the simple design. It's not intricate design.
Mm-hmm.
But every one that you do, it's hard for me to let them go.
You can't have them all.
I know. There's only so many purses I can carry at one time. But you don't use a sewing machine.
No, everything is hand stitched, hand punched, hand cut, hand crafted, I guess, hand everything.
And we'll show some examples on our website, but we're going to start selling some of those things on the website.
Yes, if anybody wants one.
If anybody wants something and commission something for you to do. But what people need to understand, it's not factory work, so no two things are exactly alike. I mean, you can have a purse that's what's the purse that you just did for Debbie? That was like 10 inches by 10 inches.
10.5 by 11, I think it was.
And so it's a bigger purse versus mine was more like 8-inch purse.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have the rough
natural
size, but you do like to use the natural cut
for the flap, yeah.
For the flap. And sometimes, most of mine, I think all of mine, do not have a attachment like a button or anything like that to close it.
Keep it closed.
But you have started making some with a closure. And then you have started using a leather flap with then pillow ticking in the middle, and then what is the outside? It's muslin for some black powder bags, and then you antique them.
Yeah.
Or distress them.
Distress it to make it look old,
And there's a whole slew of companies that do that.
Yes, there is.
And the one that you just made looks great. I love it.
It looks old. Looks period. Like it's been around for a long time.
You even have your blood on it.
I poked my finger with an awl and it started bleeding. And it's still got the hole there. Yeah.
So we'll have to show some examples on the website, but we're going to go ahead and open up our shop. And if somebody wants to order something, we have little business card holders.
Mm-hmm.
We have notebook covers, and then some purses. We're going to start simple, but like I said, knowing ahead of time that it's going to be similar but different, because no two are exactly alike.
No, all the leather is different. I've got a stockpile of leather, a bunch of scrap pieces of leather to make small, intricate stuff, and some bigger pieces for like the purses and stuff.
And you use, what kind of thread do you use?
It is waxed thread from, usually try to get it from Maine Thread Company up in Maine. I like their website. I like their product. I like the thickness of it, the way it feels, their quickness on their shipments. They're just all around good company.
Yeah, I like that. You got 2 different weights, I guess you can say, of thread.
Yeah, one was a 0.45, I think, and the other one was 0.50. And it's a bigger, thicker wax thread, and it makes for nice stitching.
Yeah, it's very, very pretty.
And you can get it in just about any color you want.
Yeah, I love the turquoise.
Mm-hmm.
And you got some
olive green and scarlet, natural.
Yeah. We'll have to order some more because you're running low.
Mainly on the turquoise.
I love turquoise.
Mm-hmm. The Native American in you.
I guess. And then, but traditionally, what was leather sewn with?
Sinew is what it was called. It was mainly a deer tendon is what they used to sew stuff together.
And now that's pretty difficult to do.
Hard to find actual authentic sinew. You can make it yourself.
And I would think that it's cost prohibitive to do that. So that's why they have thread.
Artificial sinew now.
Yeah. And you use that.
Yeah.
And that type of stuff is at the Rendezvous. Mm-hmm. You can buy supplies.
I think $9 to $11 for a half pound of it, which takes a lot to weigh a half pound.
A lot of yards.
A lot of yards.
A lot of yards. Well, that is, I'd have to say again, I am a little jealous that I didn't go.
Yep. You should have went.
I should have went.
Go to the next one.
That's why we like to go on trips together, so we can always experience things together. And that time you've been there.
Done that without you.
Without me. So that's why we're going to do it again. Because we're not done doing.
The one I just went to is in May, so I might have to take you to that one.
Mm-hmm.
It was a reschedule because they got rained out,
Yeah. Well, we think that...
I don't know.
I don't know either. We appreciate that you tuned in today.
Yes.
For the Been There Doing That podcast, talking all about Rendezvous, Mountain Men, and the transition of Robert coming from the modern world back to being a mountain man. And so thank you for tuning in, and we hope that you have subscribed to our channel. And
where can they find us?
They can find us on Facebook. Been There Doing That.
Mm-hmm.
Our website is beentheredoingthat.com.
Yeah.
And they should really get onto your Instagram. And is that Been There Doing That?
Yes, it is.
So get onto Instagram, because he's always on Instagram. And I have to say, always on Instagram. So if you want to see pictures of what he's doing right now and in the midst of projects or where he's at, Instagram is where to go.
Yeah.
So thanks for tuning in, and until next time.
Watch your top knot and keep your powder dry.